Welcome, specimen. Right now, your visual cortex is mapping the geometry of the room, identifying familiar objects and faces with seamless, unconscious precision. You rely entirely on this quiet, invisible mechanism to tell you who is safe. The brain is an impeccable archivist. It matches the exact curve of a jawline to the warmth of an ancient affection, until it severs the wire, while you are staring directly at your mother. This is called Capgras Delusion, and it is a profound somatic glitch. You will look into the eyes of the person you love most, and your unreliable flesh will insist, with terrifying certainty, that they have been replaced by a flawless flesh forgery. Let us diagnose this imposter. Let us peel back the scalp and examine the circuitry of your betrayal. To understand Capgras, we must observe the dual architecture of human recognition. It is not a single path. It is two cables, running parallel in the dark. The first cable is purely structural. Your eyes capture the light, map the geometry, and send the signal to the fusiform face area. It is a biological scanner. It measures the distance between the eyes, the curve of the lip, the architecture of the jaw. It confirms identity. It states, objectively, this is mother. This is husband. This is child. But structure is merely a biological lie if it lacks resonance. Think of the face you trust most in this world. Right now, your brain relies on a fragile, microscopic wire to attach warmth to that geometry. If I cut it, you will feel nothing but cold terror the next time they smile at you. This second cable is the emotional tether. It connects the visual cortex to the amygdala, the damp, ancient vault of feeling. When the familiar face is recognized, a pulse travels down this secondary wire, triggering a wash of chemical history. The warmth of love. The comfort of safety. The visual recognition is validated by the heart. In Capgras Delusion, the first cable remains perfectly intact. The face is mapped. The geometry is flawless. But the second cable, the emotional tether, has been severed by trauma, microscopic stroke, or a sudden synaptic corrosion. Pause. Before the Capgras Delusion deepens, a brief word from your examiner. If this anatomy of fear is serving its purpose, subscribe. Every new subscriber is another specimen willing to study what was never meant to be taught. Another mind that refuses to look away. And if this case file deserves wider distribution, a like costs you nothing. It tells the algorithm where to send the others. We continue the dissection. The signal arrives at the visual cortex, but it never reaches the amygdala. The face is structurally identical, but the feeling is entirely absent. The brain is presented with an impossible paradox. It sees the mother, but it feels a stranger. The mind cannot tolerate a vacuum. It demands an explanation for this neural heresy. Your brain will always choose a logical nightmare over an illogical reality. To resolve the dissonance, your intellect will construct a terrifying, unshakable conclusion. This creature looks exactly like my mother, but I feel nothing for her. Therefore, she has been replaced. She is a perfect duplicate. It is a profound cellular apostasy. The conscious mind becomes trapped in a paranoid thriller, written by its own damaged wiring. The imposter is in your kitchen. The imposter is in your bed, looking at you with eyes that hold no soul. Let us move deeper into the cortical architecture, past the primary visual pathways, and ascend to the high throne of reason, the prefrontal cortex. You might assume the intellect would intervene in this crisis. When the emotional wire fails, why does the logical brain not simply override the sensory error? Why does it not look at the undeniable, objective geometry of the face and conclude, my emotional center is damaged, but my eyes are functional? This is still my family. Because your brain is not an objective observer. It is a desperate, frantic meaning maker. It despises a vacuum, and it vastly prefers a recursive lie to an unexplainable void. The right hemisphere, specifically the frontal and parietal regions tasked with belief evaluation, is entirely complicit in this tragedy. In a healthy specimen, these regions act as a biological auditor. They test bizarre, dreamlike hypotheses against waking reality and immediately discard the absurd. But in the Capgras anatomy, this auditor has abandoned its post. It accepts the phantom phenotype without a whisper of skepticism. The imposter theory is not a failure of logic. To the damaged brain, it is the only logically sound solution to an emotional deficit. Your intellect is entirely subservient to your hidden biology. You walk through your day believing you are a rational creature, a captain steering a predictable ship. You are not. If your internal chemistry demands a monster, your prefrontal cortex will rapidly draft the blueprints. You are one microscopic arterial blockage away from treating your own child as a hostile, parasitic entity. Your entire grip on reality is dictated by a damp, fragile web of tissue you cannot see, cannot feel, and absolutely cannot control. The beloved face you once knew transforms into an ossified memory, a rigid, dead artifact of the past that no longer matches the breathing, moving creature standing in your hallway. The mind categorizes the living person as a perfect, malicious duplicate. And worse, it begins to actively hunt for confirmation. It scrutinizes the imposter for microscopic flaws. A slightly altered cadence in their voice. A millimeter of asymmetry in their smile. The brain violently weaponizes its own pattern recognition software to prove its paranoia correct. The imposter must be unmasked, and the biology will stop at nothing to tear the mask away. Let us isolate the cruelest parameter of this affliction. Capgras Delusion almost exclusively targets those closest to the patient. Parents, spouses, children, beloved pets. It rarely targets the postman. It never targets a stranger on the street. Why? Because the absence of a signal only matters when the machine expects one. You believe your attachments are sacred. You think love is a soul-deep bond, immune to the mechanical failures of the flesh. It is not. Love, in this clinical context, is merely a heavy biochemical expectation. When you look at a stranger, your visual cortex scans the face, finds no emotional data in the amygdala, and registers perfectly normal apathy. The system functions. But when you look at your spouse, the brain anticipates a flood of familiar neurochemistry. When that flood is blocked by a microscopic lesion, the silence is deafening. The discrepancy between the visual recognition and the emotional void forces the intellect to invent a narrative to explain the anomaly. Love becomes a devastating liability. It is the very expectation of affection that triggers the paranoia. The profound feeling you hold for your family is nothing more than an inherited illusion waiting to be shattered by a vascular misfire. The tragedy deepens when we observe the patient's reaction. They do not hate the imposter. Often, they are terrified of the imposter or terrified for their missing loved one. The brain, now acting as a deeply unreliable narrator, writes a script of abduction and replacement. Imagine your spouse walking through the door right now. You see their coat. You hear the exact pitch of their voice. But your internal wiring remains dead, cold, and unresponsive. Your intellect immediately concludes that the creature in your home has done something terrible to your real spouse. The patient will mourn the living person standing right in front of them. It is a grotesque paradox of grief. They are weeping for a ghost while staring at the warm, breathing body. This is the ultimate manifestation of corpus corruption, when the physical degradation of the neural pathways forces the mind to cannibalize its own reality. The imposter phenomenon is not an act of malice. It is a desperate attempt by a broken machine to maintain logical consistency in a world suddenly stripped of emotional color. Let us compile the clinical profile of this compulsion. How does the host behave when the biology turns hostile? What happens when the mind actively hunts the body? The Capgras patient does not simply accept the imposter. They are driven by a biological imperative to expose them. It is a profound somatic rebellion. The brain recognizes that its internal map of reality has been fractured, and instead of repairing the map, it seeks to burn the territory. You think you are capable of letting things go. You believe your rational mind can override your anxieties. You are mistaken. If your brain chemistry misaligns, your highest executive functions will become nothing more than slaves to your paranoia. You will tear your own life apart, fiber by fiber, to satisfy an itch in your damaged frontal lobe. The behavioral symptoms are universally grotesque. The patient begins a relentless campaign of testing. They scrutinize the imposter's habits, their posture, the exact cadence of their breathing. They are searching for the marginalia mutiny, the tiny, overlooked anomalies that will prove the duplicate is flawed. A wife might measure the distance between her husband's coffee cup and the edge of the table, convinced the real husband placed it 3 millimeters further to the left. This is not mere suspicion, it is a cellular occupation. The paranoia colonizes every waking thought. The victim will set psychological and physical traps. They will ask obscure questions only the true loved one could answer. And when the imposter answers perfectly, the diseased brain merely concludes that the entity has access to the original's memory banks. There is no victory condition. The biology will not allow relief. In the terminal stages of this compulsion, the patient may resort to violence. It is an act of desperate self-preservation. If the creature wearing your mother's face is a perfect, emotionless replica, what did it do to your real mother? The only logical conclusion is murder. Therefore, the imposter must be destroyed. Imagine your own hands wrapping around your spouse's throat, your intellect absolutely certain that you are strangling a monster to save your family. The patient attacks the entity, entirely blind to the dermal betrayal unfolding before them. They are striking the very flesh they swore to protect, guided by a broken machine that will never, ever let them stop. The Capgras diagnosis is a terminal verdict on the sanctity of human connection. It proves, with brutal finality, that love is not a spirit haunting the machine, it is merely a fluid running through a pipe. When the pipe fractures, the love drains into the dark. You exist in a state of precarious biological grace. You look at your family, your friends, the face in the mirror, and you trust the emotional warmth that floods your chest. You believe this warmth is an eternal, unshakable truth. It is not. It is a fragile, electrical hum. If that hum stops tomorrow, you will look at the people you cherish most and see only cold, terrifying strangers, wearing the stolen faces of the ones you lost. Your entire reality is written on a bone palimpsest, temporary script etched loosely over the permanent thread of decay. The brain is the most profoundly isolated organ in the body. It has no windows. It has no doors. It sits in absolute darkness, locked inside a sealed cranial vault, desperately trying to guess what is happening outside by interpreting a Morse code of chemical pulses. When the pulses lie, the brain accepts the lie. It cannot do otherwise. The intellect becomes a tragic, paranoid author, drafting a somatic soliloquy of isolation and betrayal, speaking only to an audience of ghosts. We like to pretend the mind is a fortress. But Capgras proves it is merely a lymph-stained archive, susceptible to microscopic floods and vascular rot. It is terrifying how little it takes to sever you from your own life. One misfired synapse, one clogged vessel, and the entire architecture of your affection collapses into a nightmare. You are forced to live alongside the hollow shells of the people you love, trapped in an endless mourning for the living. If this cadaver calligraphy has unsettled your comfortable illusions, you must leave your mark upon this record. Subscribe to ensure your name is added to the ledger of the willing. Leave a comment below detailing which of your own biological certainties you suspect might be a fragile fabrication. And strike the like button to feed this autopsy to the algorithm, spreading the contagion to other unsuspecting minds. The algorithm demands its tribute of fear. This specimen file is now sealed. The coil grows only when its specimens multiply. We are not finished. We have never been finished.